we are here today at Alspark, and we are here with a phenomenal live audience that'll make some noise. Yes, this is actual people, fantastic. But we also have an awesome panel here today because we wanted to kind of capture a little bit what 2017 was like, but also kind of looking forward to 2018. So we thought we'd spice up this panel firstly with a phenomenal outfit, and then, and then of course just an awesome person, the Executive Director of CIO Strategy Counsel, Jenna Sutz. Thank you very much for joining me. Right next to her, we have the CEO of Clearwater Clinical, Michael Wider. Thank you very much. And then, of course, the Managing Director of Alspark, Patrick White. Can we give them a big round of applause? Whoop, whoop. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start with you, Jenna. CIO Strategy Council is a new organization that's really come to fruition. I think you've kind of played a part in kind of making this idea come to fruition. I know it's an initiative from Alex Benet, and he certainly was very excited to have you kind of spearhead this in a certain degree as well as we move forward. But let's kind of explain this not just to our audience here, but also for people that's watching this online. What exactly is the CIO Strategy Council?
So the CIO Strategy Council, as you've mentioned, is a brand new national council. The membership is CIOs from across the country, both public sector and private sector CIOs. So public sector, we have a number of members, mostly from federal departments, as well at this time the food manufacturing energy. So the council members, we meet every other month, and it's really an opportunity to capitalize, to grab onto some of the most forward-thinking chief information officers in our country and have a forum, obviously sharing of best practices and all those great things, but the opportunity to look at ways to collectively leverage the intelligence, the power, the determination, the innovation that these CIOs embody to push forward the Canadian IC as well as their respective organizations.
Now, I know this year, just talking about Alex Benet, he's really been very vocal, he's been really out there, and he's been trying to, once again, get the community to talk and the ecosystem to talk with one another. I know you're trying to engage more of these CIOs, but how, you know, moving into 2019 and I guess moving beyond that, what is kind of your mandate? What is what you're trying to achieve with a specific council?
Sure. So I think as we move forward, what you'll see in 2018, first and foremost, we do have a research agenda on a few key topics. So namely, at this point, we're looking at cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and the future of work. But then perhaps even a bit more tangible, moving from that, the opportunity to leverage some pilots. So to take some innovative Canadian solutions and pilot those within both our government department, our members from the government, as well as our private sector companies. And then I think I'll add on to that, there's been some lively discussion around the role that we can play as a council in the setting of standards in ICT. So looking at things like artificial intelligence and creating Canadian standards, for example, on ethical use of AI, or be it Canadian adoption of cloud. So Canadian standards that will really give our companies a competitive advantage moving forward.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going to step onto our next panelist here, the CEO of Clearwater Clinical, Michael Wider. We're going to talk a little bit about product as well that you have brought to the market. There's multiple products that you guys are bringing to market, but we definitely want to showcase one specific called Shoebox. So take a moment here and listen and watch a little bit more about what Shoebox is all about.
So Clearwater is a medical device company located here in Ottawa, and what Shoebox is a new way of testing hearing. So it's a hearing diagnostic. It's a medical device, and the company was founded by an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, Dr. Matt Bromwich, who works out of CHIO here, right here in Ottawa. And Matt's problem that he was trying to solve was that there was a huge bottleneck of kids at his hospital. He's a pediatric hospital who needed a hearing test, and it was over 1,000 kids on this list, often taking them 9 months just to get a simple test. Another problem he saw was that if you're in Iqaluit or some remote area, they would actually fly a family to Ottawa to have their children tested for hearing, simply because there's no specialist and equipment in those remote locations to test them where they are. So he set out to look at, well, why is this like this, and saw that there were kind of two fundamental bottlenecks. One is that there's a shortage of specialist audiologists who do this testing, and secondly, the tools or the device to test it are all designed for those specialists and also to be used in very special locations. So he set about to reinvent how hearing testing works and build it on top of modern technology. So he built a mobile iPad-based hearing test that is novel, not just in the platform that we use, but also then it's wholly automated. So the patient actually interacts with an application on our device and tests their own hearing. And in doing so, we produce results that are just as accurate as a traditional test, but it takes 3 to 5 minutes. It can be done by someone of lesser experience and skill, test them anywhere. So really what our goal is to really disrupt the hearing testing market and to democratize access to testing so that anyone, anywhere can get tested for hearing. And it turns out that this is a very large market. There's 650 million people worldwide with hearing loss, and especially affecting the elderly population. If you're over 65, 1/3, over 80, 2/3 of people will be impacted. And that population is going to double over the next 20 or 30 years. And so it's a huge growth market, and the shortage is really getting worse and worse. And so that's what our company is all about, is trying to solve that issue.
So I guess, we've spoken about tech in general being applied to various industries, and we know that just a lot this year. Once again, there's been a lot of conversation, just innovation in the medical industry as well. And about your company is the fact that you have all these products to market, and is also focusing on the medical industry. And I'd love to hear from you a little bit. What challenges and maybe also what victories you have seen over the last couple of years, or as you have brought these products to market and navigating through the medical industry, because there's a lot of companies that are considering and engaging with this industry more, but we know that there's a lot of things. Sometimes the tech moves faster than the mandates and or what you're allowed to do. So maybe you can give us a little bit of...
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of barriers to entry in the medical space. I personally am not a physician. I've worked in several other startups in the IT space, and so it was new to me kind of getting into this. But what attracted me about this particular problem is, one is that it's a very slow-moving industry, and for many good reasons, because we need to test things, make sure they work properly before introducing innovations. Whereas in IT, it's sort of move fast, break things. You can't do that, right? So I think some of the challenges, though, are really that there's a lot of these compliance requirements. We need to be ISO certified. We need FDA compliance. We need Health Canada compliance. We just finished EU CE marking. So there's a lot of compliance issues, both with data as well as the device itself. And clinical trials, validation, all these things need to be done in a very rigorous manner. But that being said, I think there's a huge potential to innovate in this space, and that it's very expensive, very slow moving. And what we really brought to bear was what Matt had was the medical knowledge, Dr. Bromwich, the founder. What I came with was really more of the IT technical, how to apply software development, marketing, sales tactics to this industry. And in using mobile technology to act as a medical device, we've been able to move a lot faster. So, for example, we iterate and release updates to our product monthly. Our competitors are every 5 to 10 years. And so that's a massive, massive advantage. Our pace of innovation we're light years ahead of them. And I think that there's a huge opportunity to really innovate in the medical space, speed things up, as well as lower the costs. And the cost of healthcare is skyrocketing. We need better solutions, faster, simpler solutions to solve problems, and relying upon the old way of doing things is not going to work. So I think one of the big trends I see in medicine is that Things that were done by specialists, our technology is making them available to generalists, so your family physician can do more. Things that were done by the generalist physician are now moving into the personal realm. So Fitbit and the your Apple Watch and so forth are measuring us for biometrics that used to have to go into a clinic to do. So I think we're in a very fast-moving part of the space where I expect to see a lot more innovation in the medical device industry, moving at digital speed versus the snail's pace that we've seen in the past.
Thank you for that. A round of applause, please. Yes, thank you very much. Good some insight. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Jenna, so far. I also want to ask then, of course, Managing Director of Allspark, Patrick. I'm going to pose a couple questions because you're literally light years away from me in this setup. So instead of me going over and doing the moonwalk every 2 seconds, so maybe you can speak to a couple things. Firstly, Allspark has evolved quite a bit over the last 3 years. Maybe you can share with us a little bit how you as a company, because people don't always see Allspark as a company because you are a company, but and you are a startup, so to speak, as well, and how you've evolved over the last 3 years and how your priorities now have changed maybe from what it was in the beginning to where it is now, and maybe how you look into 2018. So that's maybe one question. And then maybe also, looking back at what Jenna just said and also Michael just said, navigating companies here in this space where they're at through these various strategies, councils, corporations, whether it be the industries that they have to go through or creating strategic partners, how big a part of that plays for you as Allspark and to help facilitate those connections, help facilitate those strategic plans and moving forward.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. So I'll start with the first question of where we were and where we are. I would say Allspark set out a goal initially when Leo and I founded, and the goal was to create out of our 5-year program mandate with the Canadian Accelerator Incubator Program that was initiated by Finance, was to try and create 2 global established dominant companies. So another Mitel, another Newbridge, another Shopify. And so, going back to everything that I've learned through Leo as well, is we've set a huge goal, and then how do we accomplish that? So that goal hasn't changed. However, I would say, just like any startup or any company, what we've done is we've pivoted along the way. So after every time we do a program, we sit down with our team, talk about what has worked, what hasn't worked. And we initially started, and we had 2 companies. We had space for up to 8, but we always said we need to have companies that we feel are coachable, we like their tech, and we think we'll be able to add that value to drive them. Because at the end of the day, what we are is enablers. The companies, just as Mike has said, they're the ones doing it. The question is how are we tapping into our networks, our subject matter expertise, our ability to help that company amplify what they're doing. But fundamentally, the companies are the ones taking the risks, taking the dilution of investment, and really driving or working with the government. The question is, how do we expand it? So from the beginning to where we are today, I would say there's been a lot of twists and turns. What we've seen is early on, we had very Ottawa-centric dominated companies coming in because I think our brand wasn't very well known. I think where we are today, out of the 7 companies in our 4th cohort, 6 of them are from outside of Ottawa. 4 are in Toronto, 1 out of Montreal, and 1 out of Fredericton, which just shows to us the value that I believe we are giving and that people are attracted to come. It goes back to that mentorship piece. Really, I've been lucky enough because I've been working with Leo and with Terry Matthews and then even our whole group to be able to learn and grow. And then what we do is put a mentor with each company to really drive them. And it's not just advisory service. I want to point that out, that these entrepreneurs that are former entrepreneurs that are the mentors are really driving with the company. And so, it goes back again to what I said at the beginning. Our goal is, can we get those 2 globally dominant companies? It's a massive dream. Who knows if we'll achieve it, but that's where we're going. And then the second question. Yeah, and I think the question is what we, as we've evaluated and what we've done as well, as we've said early on, we had a 9-month and a 4-month program, and our 4-month program was working with a lot of earlier companies that potentially maybe didn't have quite that market fit, or were about to do a pivot, didn't have quite as much revenue. We were optimistic that they would be able to get their product out during our program. We've kind of shifted away because we are a quite intensive program. We have a weekly meeting with the team. We give them resources with respect to the mentor up to a day and a half a week, with also a sales mentor and a branding and positioning mentor, and then they work with me on government programs. So it is an intensive, disruptive environment, especially for the company. So it has to be that perfect fit. And I think what we've seen is, as what we're trying to do is have those companies that are able to really absorb our attention and drive further. And I think what we're seeing is, out of the companies, and ideally we'll have, whether it happens by the end of this year or early in January, one of our companies in our former cohort should be announcing our largest Series A. Again, that is them, enacting and enabling, but it'll be a huge piece. What I'm seeing in our cohort right now are a great group of companies that stem all industries, just as we talked with healthcare to real estate to social listening to stuff in the food space. So we're seeing a dramatic variety of companies that are all kind of driving to that next level.
Thank you. That's so nice. Telephone. I love it. Okay. So firstly, big round of applause. Woo-hoo! All right. I do that on purpose so people know that we actually have a real audience here. And now we're coming close here, so I'll just finish this off and maybe leave you 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute to this. But maybe what about, 2017, 2018? I feel this year was so powerful on so many levels. Maybe just because we were celebrating 150, but also I think everybody just in the entrepreneurship space and even in the tech space is so just determined to make real movement, so to speak. So maybe you share with me what you are excited about for what's to come for Canada, what's to come for tech, what's to come for business moving forward, what maybe even means for Ottawa, being on the map now and step out there, because I feel our city, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel our city is really slowly but surely making more a mark on a global perspective, which is great for the country and also great for the companies that is launching here. But I'd like to get your insight. I know it's tough, 30 seconds to 1 minute, but a little bit of insight.
And I have to go first.
Yes, please.
Good, so I can steal yours.
Yes, exactly. Good luck.
Okay, so I'm going to say from a Canadian perspective first in my 30 seconds. I am really excited about what's happening across the country with respect to artificial intelligence. I think we are recognized, Canada is recognized as really leading in a research capacity in AI. And I think, next we need to figure out how to commercialize and do that well. And this is a strength as a country. And I think we really need to rally around that. Second, really quick for Ottawa, I'm going to say I'm still super jazzed about what's happening with autonomous vehicles in our city. And I look forward to seeing where that goes. QNX, along with a number of others who are, really leading in that area. The launch of our on-road test route here in Canada was phenomenal. So I'm excited to see where that goes. It's more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm old enough to have been around in the 90s and saw the buzz that Ottawa had back then, especially in the technical community. We were Silicon Valley North, and I think we lost a little bit of that through the early 2000s, and I sense that a lot of that is coming back. There's just a tremendous diversity now of companies, and SaaS, I think, is a center of excellence. Elspark has done an amazing job at creating SaaS North and the conference there, so I think there's a lot of buzz around that, and I'm glad to see Ottawa really coming back on the map in a strong way. I think that there's some huge, I think our biggest challenge has always been in Canada and in Ottawa is not just creating startups, but creating startups at scale. And clearly with Shopify now, we've got a new leader there that's shown that it's possible and what can happen. And so I'm excited to see more companies like that emerge to show that we're obviously great technical talent. We're great at startups. We have the great incubation. It's about what Patrick talked about, creating these world-class companies. And I'm excited about our potential. Love to see more of that as in the years to come.
No, I think it's almost all covered. I think that the thing that I want to echo is to what Mike's saying, out of the 90s and what, Jenna's saying with Ottawa. I think realistically what I'd like to see is us be more vocal. I know I'm going to have a chat with Dan Herman, the Executive Director of Innovation Canada later. And I think we gotta know, and I think Ottawa took a back seat, we got to know that we're participating. So how loud can we be to make sure that our government and let alone the rest of the world hears that we are doing amazing things? I think, we hear a lot about Toronto and the Kitchener-Waterloo corridor, and it's fantastic and it should be celebrated. However, how much are we celebrating successes like Clearwater Clinical or, Mindbridge with Ellie Fathy here later, or, FileFast, it's one of the Elspark companies locally. I think what we need to do is be that vocal piece. So it starts with social media. It starts with talking to government officials, and it means when we're abroad that we're also celebrating. So, thank you to you, Carlo, for starting this piece with Techopia. I think this just happened in 2017, but it's a matter of how do we get our voice to be louder that'll benefit everybody else.
Look at that. That's awesome. I am going to hire all of you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. For those of you that is watching this online, thank you very much for joining us. I hope that you'll stay tuned and join us again. We have a lot more of this coming in 2018. You guys have literally been a wonderful panel, and thank you so much for being our live audience. This is so awesome. Thank you so very much for all of you out there for joining us. Check us out on techopia.ca. Go check out all the wonderful companies we have here. We look forward to seeing you soon in the new year. Bye for now.